So it's springtime, that means turkey season, and that means it is time for us traditional bow hunters to get as many turkey feathers as we can and process them for our own fletchings. Whether we get them with our bow, whether we get them with a shotgun, or we just collect wings from buddies' turkeys. Most people aren't saving wings to make fletchings. So it's an opportunity to talk to a local sportsman's club, the guys at the bow shop or the gun shop, and you'd be surprised how many turkey wings you can really get. Wild turkey feathers make amazing fletchings. Significantly better than any of the feathers we'll get from the commercial companies using farm-raised birds. They have better oil in them. They just are way more waterproof. They hold up. And there's something special about making your own fletchings, especially if it's a bird you've taken. This was a wing from a bird, I think 2 years ago. A lot of times I'll just cut the wing off and trim off as much meat as I can around the joint, put some borax or salt on it, hang them up and let them dry. You do have to worry about little bugs and mites possibly eating the feathers in some cases. So I know guys will store them in plastic bags with mothballs, or there's a few different tricks. The feathers you want to focus on are the primary wing feathers. They're the heavier, that real banded white and black. It's a stiffer, heavier feather. These, when we get into here, these are secondaries, and they're just smaller and thinner. They'll work as fletchings. I often process them. They're great for kids' arrows. You can make flu-flus with them, or just, it's always nice to have extra feathers around. So here we go. This one's a primary. What I do is I just fold it back, kind of break it off. Take a pair of tin snips. I'll cut it off. That's how I take them. If I don't save them on the wing, I'll save a bag of primaries cut, just like that. So here's a primary feather. We're going to want to split it. If you look, you can see this groove. You're going to split it right down that groove. Get rid of this little side. Once you have it split, you're going to want to remember if it's right wing or left wing. So the way I do it is, this is a split one, and if you look, the quill, let's see if I can do it. The quill sits to one side. There it is. This lip, the quill sits that side. This side is flat. The lip is on this side. The feather lays back. So this is how it would sit on your arrow. The way I think about it is the feathers are to the right side of that quill, which means it's a right wing feather. If it was a left wing, the feathers would be on the left side of the quill. That's just how it works for me to remember. So we're going to have to split down that groove. And there's a million ways to do it. And you can just take a regular razor blade and kind of work your way down the cut. And it'll start to split open. You don't want to tear it too much, so you'll have to go back. Start it to rip a little bit right there. So you want to just go back and keep cutting that groove. If you're really careful, you can get all the way to the tip, although you won't really use the tip. So on this one, that's the part you discard, and here's the feather. This is what you'll work on to grind down this quill. This is what you'll have when you want to start grinding them down to actually make your fletchings. So the tool I prefer is a fabric cutter. You can get them at Joann Fabrics for a couple bucks. And I can take that and I can run that like a pizza cutter right down that groove. It just cuts so easily. Follows that groove right down. There we go. So now that we have the feather split, we have to grind it. That base is way too thick to put on an arrow. Years ago, I bought this Great Northern feather grinding jig. It's really pretty nice. They're expensive, but they're great if you're going to do a bunch of feathers. So you just get it set in there, and then lock it down. And then you would run it through a sander on a drill press. It works really, really well. But they're expensive. If you're only going to do a few feathers a year, it's probably not worth it. I started experimenting with this. It's really simple. You can make a much nicer one if you look online, but this is just 2 pieces. It was a joist hanger that I had cut apart that we had from an old deck. And if you just put it on here, clamp this down, takes a little finagling. You can clamp it down, tap that in, and hit it with these. You can run it across the jig just like I'll do the other one. You can also run it across a belt sander, and I guess if you really wanted to, you could glue sandpaper to a board and actually sand it this way. It would just take significantly longer. But this will do the same thing as this for a couple bucks at Home Depot, or stuff you have laying around the garage. A lot of times you'll get this end, it just doesn't grind right. It wasn't set in there. It doesn't sit in right. So I'll just snip that off. The rest of that is a perfectly good for fletching an arrow. I'm going to give it a shot with these just 2 pieces of metal. I think the clamps are actually going to be in the way for this particular drum sander. I think on a belt sander, they'd probably be fine. But I'm going to see if I can just hold them in place. If you really wanted to, I'm sure you could rig a bolt here and a bolt here and clamp them down tight if you wanted to hold them really in place. And this is what I did on a secondary, but that's really nice. The very end, again, just like the other one, was sort of a problem, but you'd snip that, and that's perfect. This feather's pretty beat up, but the grinding part it'll work just fine. So the final step here is take a section of feather that has a nice uniform grind to it. There's, as I said, some spots just are going to be tough to do on the very ends. But here's a good piece. It's a nice feather. It's in good shape. So I'm going to lay this down. You want to make sure you lay it down so it's facing the right direction. I've made the mistake before and cut them so the front is the back and the back is the front. That's not what you want to do. So you want to lay it down in place using a chopper here. I love these little choppers. Watch your fingers, you're going to get it in place and hold it. I like to put a little pressure down on it to hold it in place. I'll put a block of wood on it so I'm not beating up on the chopper. Even when I use a rubber mallet, I like to put the block on, and you're going to give it one good tap. And there is a 5-inch right wing shield cut, ready to go. So I've never actually done this, but I know guys make stencils. You can buy them out of plexiglass. I'm going to see if I can make one out of cardboard right here now. It's real cheap and easy. Okay, we're going to see. It's not a perfect shield cut, but it's pretty close. So we're going to lay it right on here. Line those edges up. Maybe if I do it this way. Lay it right inside there. It's not perfect, but it's pretty close. I think with a little work making a better stencil, you can make a pretty good feather with just stuff laying around your house. So there you have it. Really simple and easy to process your own turkey feathers into fletchings. If you're going to do a lot of them, do yourself a favor. Pick up a chopper, a feather burner, a legitimate grinding jig. It makes your job so much easier. But if you're only doing a few feathers and you don't want to invest that kind of money, totally understandable. Just see what I did tonight. A few pieces of metal, scissors, a razor blade, cardboard, some sandpaper or a drum sander, belt sander. You probably have it in the garage, the shop, the kitchen. A little bit of imagination, you can make some really nice fletchings. And there's something really special about processing your own feathers from a bird you harvested, fletching up an arrow, and taking a deer in the fall. It's really full circle. It's pretty amazing.